Okay, so today we're going to talk about the phases of mitosis. So how do cells get from diploid to haploid? So remember, mitosis again was the replication and division of all of your body cells except for your sex cells, which actually have to go through meiosis so that you can get 23 instead of 46 chromosomes, and you can get genetic information from both parents. So meiosis is referred to a reduction division. The number of chromosomes is reduced as the cell divides. The cell goes from one diploid, 2N, which is 46, cell to 4 haploid N cells, and occurs only in cells called germ cells in testes and ovaries, or gametes, as we talked about yesterday, or Tuesday. All right, so mitosis produces identical cells and it's used for growth and repair. And meiosis produces different cells and goes through 2 rounds of division, and it's used to produce gametes. Okay, again, egg and sperm. Germ cells begin as diploid cells with homologous chromosomes. Before meiosis, DNA is copied to form replicated chromosomes. Okay, so here we have 1, we end up with 2. Okay. Replicated homologous chromosomes pair together, line up, and are separated into 2 haploid cells. Okay, so here we go through the first phase because we're on 2 phases of meiosis, and we're going to have prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, and telophase 1. Okay, now you notice that it looks a lot like mitosis, but not quite because we don't have the separation. And then you have crossing over. Okay. Now, crossing over is the exchange of chromosome parts between homologous chromosomes. This increases genetic variation among gametes, okay? So you start off and you had these 2 chromosomes that were just alike, right? You had this version of this trait and this version of this trait, okay? So you see how that works? Well, then you have crossing over, and if you notice when you finish, you have one that has A, B, C, D, E, and one that has capital A, B, and lowercase c, d, e, and then this one has lowercase a, b, and capital C, D, E. So it gives you more variation. So with each 2 parents, you don't have 2 possibilities. You have numerous possibilities of offspring. Replicated chromosomes line up, and the sister chromatids are separated into 4 haploid cells. Now, this happens in meiosis too. So then we have prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, and telophase 2. Okay, so you have these 2 cells that were made in in meiosis 1, right? And so now those 2 cells are going to go through a division, and the DNA is going to be halved. Okay, so that you end up having 4 cells at the end, each with 23. All right, so this is a little bit better picture and kind of shows you exactly what's going on. But before you had this 1 chromosome, okay, then you end up with 2 chromosomes. So here in interphase, it's copied. DNA is copied, okay? So then you go through a process of meiosis 1, and you're going to end up getting 2 identical cells, okay, at the end. So this is going to separate. You've got the copy DNA separate into 2 identical cells. Then you're going to go back up here through meiosis 2. In meiosis 2 is where that DNA is going to be split apart. But notice how we have this crossing over. So this is why this process is so important, because this allows for that genetic variation. And when you're finished, you end up with 4 haploid cells. Okay, so right now, just from this one process, we have 4 genetic variations. Okay. So first thing we need to think about, what is the goal of meiosis? What is the result of meiosis? Which cells can go through meiosis? Do all cells go through meiosis? What happens in meiosis? Okay, these are the things we need to discuss. Okay, so think about that for a second. Maybe jot it down. Press pause. Okay, so now that you've thought about your discussion questions, the first question was, what is the goal of meiosis? So the goal of meiosis is to create gametes, right? And not only to create gamete cells or sex cells or germ cells, but create variety of options in those cells, okay? The results of meiosis, again, each process, each cell creates 4 haploid cells. Which cells can go through meiosis? Again, egg and sperm, just germ cells, not every cell in the body. And what happens in meiosis is that we create 4 haploid cells. We go through 2 phases, meiosis 1, where we create 2 identical cells, and then meiosis 2, where those 2 cells are broken into 4 haploid cells. Okay? All right, so you've got some questions to answer today for meiosis versus mitosis, and let me know if you have any other questions.